War. War never changes. When the warmongers of the world come out and decide that they want to make a strike, the people who are in support of those warmongers will cheer. But when the people who are political enemies of those warmongers make a similar type of move in a country we're not at war with, those same people who support the first warmonger will cry and decry the other warmonger. It's a team sport that has been going on for the history of this world, because war never changes. In other news, we'll be talking about the Syria strike, obviously, with my Ron Perlman-esque speech. But in other news this week, ice and snow is continuing to disrupt Texas, so we'll talk just a bit about some of the updates on that and go check and hopefully get a safety check from some of our Texas friends. The U.S. national debt has topped $30 trillion. That actually happened 2 days ago, but yesterday's show was so packed we didn't get to it. So we're going to talk just a bit about what that means and where that goes. And the RNC has advanced a resolution to censure Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Plus, if you or your friends who are coming in here, because you're telling all your friends today to come back in here on a Friday, or just lurking, get one message in, at least one message in, so we can go check in and say, hey, thanks for watching the show. And of course, going back through and thanking everybody throughout the week for watching the show as well. It is going to be all this and more over on Contemporary. You're just mad you can't date me. I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Ed Heads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar, and we have got a ton to get to. I almost wish that I hadn't had such a long Ron Perlman-esque speech in the intro there, but you know what? As a Fallout fan, I had to do it. I had to come back and do that, but we have got to get right into it, guys. We have got so much to do today here. We're over 40 tabs. I can tell you that right off the bat. And I didn't even count them. I got to 10 and realized, shit, we're over 40. So we got to get into it. We got to talk about the speech. There's going to be some graphic videos. So if you got the kiddos in the room, maybe not. But we'll see what's happening with that. We'll look at the warmongering. We'll look at everything else over here on Contemporary. This morning here, plus the live chat as well. We'll cut off at 9 and go right into the live chat. But before we get started, make sure you guys go head on over and check out turnsofpagesproductions.com. The start page for turnsofpagesproductions.com is up there ready to go. And once we get started, you will be able to find great shows such as The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff. And by the way, on The Daily Ignoramus, if I've just found out that if Steven ever winds up going to visit our friend Arvolt, he is probably going to wind himself up in a locker after making a threat to put Arvolt in a locker as a nerd. And I've seen the stats now on Arvolt, and and our friend Steven cower away. But go check out The Daily Ignoramus, The Breakdown with Birkenhoff, The R-Rated Conservative, the new upcoming project with Britt and Sean Hickman, and The Porch Boys. Go check out all those shows. Porch Boys on again tonight with Asarchist, so we'll see what happens with there and where that goes. So absolutely, go and check all those shows out. They're great shows, and go check out the start page. And once we get the page started, you will have a great place for you to go and support great creators. Let's look into the Dow, which fell again yesterday, but it reset because somebody here overslept. But the Dow has reset. They're getting ready to go up and live here in 20 minutes. But the Dow ended yesterday at 35,111.16. So that was down throughout the day yesterday. It was pretty well in the red. And I mean, right now we're just looking to see what the jobs report is. But I mean, with the payrolls coming up here in The payroll's coming up here from January. It's not looking good. That's the thing. And they're going to try to spin it. They're bracing for it. They're going to try to turn it into whatever the fuck they want it to be. But losing out on 301,000 jobs when you were assured us you were going to put 200,000 more jobs up onto the board tells me that your payrolls are not going to be doing that well either. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's look in at your Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up yesterday, so congratulations to those of you who have taken Dr. J's advice and gone into the Bitcoin thing, or even those of you who've thrown a $5 bill or a $10 bill or a $20 bill into it afterwards. You have gained 1% on what you had yesterday here, $37,622 US dollars even. That is up $380 US dollars and 50 US cents, or 1.02% over yesterday. So congratulations off of that. Of course, not official financial advice on the Bitcoin. Do what you feel is best for your family and possibly look in with your financial advisor. And maybe even look at other cryptos like Doge or Shiba or something else like that. Let's look in at the scrap metal prices here. A little bit of a turn from what we saw yesterday. Copper is on the rise again. Steel is on the rise, but aluminum has turned downward on the averages. Copper is all green except for Romex wires. Steel is all green except for number one steel and a complete car. Aluminum is a little bit more mixed. Aluminum siding is up. Aluminum copper fin is down. Radiators are down. Cans are up. Sheet aluminum is up. Aluminum rims are down. And in your other plays, electric motors are up. Ballasts are up. Lead is up. Batteries are down. All catalytic converters remain on the rise. Small GM cats have turned back up. Compressors are up, alternators are up, carbide is down, hard drives are down, all of your computer plays are down, hard drives, motherboards, power supplies, low-grade boards, and PC tower. Those are all down, so that's what we have coming up out of the steel markets here. Let's see what IBD has to say, and then we've got one from Barron's as well. And a meme from one of our great memesmiths, thank you Arvold, has made the top of the show. And we'll get into the big news of the days. Let's see what Investors Business Daily has to say. Dow Jones futures fall ahead of jobs reports. Amazon soars, but Ford dives on earnings. This is from Scott Latonin. Dow futures dropped Friday morning ahead of January's payrolls report. Amazon stock soared on earnings results, while Ford Motors dove. Drug maker Bristol Myers, cybersecurity leader Fortinet, and top biotech Regeneron Pharmaceutical were also key earnings movers on Friday. Oh, well, let's see how much Regeneron made over the year. The coup! Oh, well, the government's just going to buy all our doses. Among the Dow Jones leaders, Apple lost 0.4% in pre-market on Friday, while Microsoft edged lower in today's stock market. American Express, a Dow Jones stock to watch, is nearing a new buy point. Electric vehicle leader Tesla rose nearly 1% in pre-market on Friday, looking to rebound from Thursday's losses. Back to the top! Advertisement! They're really good at landing that ad in there while I'm reading this article. Have you noticed that? EV maker Tesla rose nearly 1% in pre-market. Did I do this? Yeah. EV maker Tesla rose nearly 1% in pre-market, looking to rebound from Thursday's losses. Among Friday's top stocks to buy and watch, Baker Hughes, CF Industries, Cheniere Energy, and Continental Resources are in or near buy zones. CF Industries, Microsoft, and Tesla are IBD leaderboard stocks. Ahead of the stock market open on Friday, the Dow moved down 0.3% versus fair value. S&P 500 futures inched higher, while NASDAQ 100 futures rose 0.6%. Among ETFs, the NASDAQ 100 tracker Invesco QQQ Trust gained 0.6%, and the SPDR S&P 500 ETF moved slightly higher before Friday's open. The 10-year Treasury yield ticked below 1.82% on Friday morning. The 10-year yield closed just below 1.83% on Thursday, ending just shy of recent highs. Meanwhile, U.S. oil prices climbed sharply again as West Texas Intermediate crude topped $92 a barrel for the first time since 2014. How's that going to feel for those of you who have to put gas in multiple cars? 14. What were we looking at for gas in 14? Actually, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't great. It was like 3 something. What was it? High 3s? 375, I think, is what it was, because that was the year that I moved out of Kenosha and up towards Madison to the small town whose name I will not mention. The market could be in for an unpleasant surprise before the markets open Friday when the Labor Department releases the January jobs report. Economists' consensus estimate is for an increase of 150,000 jobs, but earlier this week, the National Employment Report from ADP shows that companies unexpectedly cut 301,000 jobs in January, far below estimates that called for the creation of 225,000 jobs during the month. Oof. They updated that number up. The ADP data often acts as a precursor to the Labor Department's official monthly hiring numbers. January's jobs report is due out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 17 minutes ago. So we haven't seen anything on it yet, but as we go through, like on the CNBC articles here, we might actually see what's up there. Let's grab one from Barron's quick, and let's hit into the meme and the big news of the day. The Dow is slipping, Amazon is soaring, and what else is happening in the stock market today? From Jack Denton. Stocks were mixed on Friday as Amazon's earnings lifted the S&P 500 and NASDAQ ahead of January's jobs report. Dow Industrial Average futures have dipped 88 points or 0.3%. S&P 500 futures have risen at 0.2%, while the NASDAQ Composite futures had climbed 0.8%. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ dropped 2.4% and 3.7% Thursday, respectively, thanks to Meta disastrous earnings. Amazon, is helping reverse some of the damage. Its stock has gained 12% after the company reported a profit of $5.80 a share, beating estimates of $3.57 a share, even if the sales of $137.4 billion were below expectations from $137.6 billion. That's helping to bring the NASDAQ higher as the index's movements are weighted by its component market capitalizations. Amazon's unusually large market cap of $1.4 trillion before accounting for its Friday gain is about 6% of the NASDAQ's total market value. Amazon is not a part of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But Amazon's earnings haven't led to broad strength the way that Meta's led to broad weakness. And that may be because all eyes are on this morning's January employment report. I'm sure they are, from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and what it might mean for the Federal Reserve. Economists are looking for 150,000 jobs to have been added this month. That would be lower than the December result of 199,000. But Thursday's jobless claims were lower than expected. You think? And no, wait, he said jobless claims. Jesus Christ. Wow, I can read this morning. And if Friday's jobs results is much stronger than expected, we could port in more of the high inflation that has been worrying policymakers. Fast wage increases would be interpreted the same way. The outcomes would make the Federal Reserve more likely to raise interest rates by 50 basis points in March rather than the 25 basis points most currently expect. That could cause pain in stocks as the markets get used to Fed policy that is meant to slow down economic demand, but pumps inflation numbers all the way up here. Dude, our markets are a mess. Our economy is a mess right now. And we will see what happens with that. We will continue to read every weekday morning what's happening in the markets and talk about what that means for the broader economy, because the two are not the same thing. They're intertwined, but they're not the same thing. So we will keep going with that. Let's grab this meme here that I promised from Arbolt. And let's head out of here for the day. TOHL, the orange-haired Lorax, Arbolt24 over on Twitter, takes a screenshot from Orkbrand. And above the that he captions this, those damn racists and their tolerance. Orkbrand, the friendship brand, says it's fucked up how tolerant the racist community is. They don't even care what race you are as long as you're being racist. Thank you, Orkbrand. Thank you, Arvold. All right, with that, let's start here. Let's talk about what happened in Syria yesterday. Pretty much right as we were clicking the end stream button, too, by the way, because I got done and I made a breakfast shake for the morning. Mocha coffee flavored, if you're asking, and it's delicious. But I get up and I make a breakfast shake and get out the door and head out to work. And just as I'm getting on there, because I listen, like I told you guys before, I listen to the terrestrial radio on the way to work usually, just to see what's happening locally, see what my competition is saying about everything. And that's the first thing that I hear is just about a couple minutes ago, there was a strike in Syria. Not an airstrike. They went through and they took out a terrorist leader. And, of course, the wonder is always there of did they actually take out a terrorist leader? Did they come back out and take out an innocent civilian? Did they stage something so they could have a win coming up ahead of the speech? Which also was happening at the same time, by the way. But let's see what we've got going on here from YFF. Out of Greenville, South Carolina, leader of ISIS killed during U.S. counterterrorism raid in Syria. This comes to WYFF from the Dissect Press. The leader of a violent Islamic State group was killed, blowing himself and members of his family up during an overnight raid carried out by the U.S. Special Operations Forces in northwestern Syria, President Biden said on Thursday. The raid targeted Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Quraishi, who took over as the head of the militant group in October 31st of 2019, just days after leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi died during a U.S. raid in the same area. Biden said al-Quraishi died as al-Baghdadi did. Convenient. By exploding a bomb that killed himself and members of his family, including women and children, as U.S. forces approached. Wow, really? So, he had the same MO. He did the same thing as you guys did the same operation. I've already got questions. But of course, because it's Biden, it's racist to ask questions. And only Trump can do bad things. Because he is both evil and orange and evil. Keep that in mind as we look into this. The operation came as the Islamic State has been trying for a resurgence with a series of attacks in the region, including an assault late last month to seize a prison in northeast Syria, holding at least 3,000 IS detainees, its boldest operation in years. Thanks to the bravery of our troops, this horrible terrorist leader is no more, Biden said. He said al-Quraishi has been responsible for the prison strike as well as genocide against the Yazidi people in Iraq in 2014. U.S. Special Forces landed in helicopters and attacked a house in a rebel-held corner of Syria, clashing for 2 hours with gunmen, witnesses said. Residents described continuous gunfire and explosions that jolted the town of Atma near the Turkish border, an area dotted with camps for internally displaced people from Syria's civil war. Biden said he ordered the U.S. forces to take every precaution available to minimize civilian casualties. Man, come on! The reason they did not conduct an airstrike on the home. First responders reported that 13 people have been killed, including 6 children and 4 women. U.S. officials say they did not have a sure sense of how many family members were with al-Quraishi when the explosive detonated. U.S. forces collected DNA, which later confirmed al-Quraishi's death, officials said. Biden, along with Kamala Harris, the senior national security aides, monitored a live feed of the operation from the White House Situation Room. According to an official, the president was kept abreast of the commandos' long flight out of Syria by National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan overnight. All right, here's what happened. Mr. President! Mr. President! I'm awake. I was just resting my eyes. The operation marked a military success for the U.S. at an important time after setbacks elsewhere. And that's where I want to go to with this. The operation marked a military success for the U.S. at an important time after setbacks elsewhere, including the chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal, had led allies and opponents to conclude U.S. power globally was weakening. What else is going on right now? What have we said with the Supreme Court? And Chuck Todd, coming out here trying to say, well, right now, because of the Supreme Court pick, the Biden is going to need, they're going to get a much-needed win because of this, which they're not. They're going to continue to fight this because Biden made a promise he should have never fucking made. He just should have slipped this in around the background. If he hadn't made that promise, he could have slipped Brown Jackson rather. He could have slipped her in. And then you rightfully could have called the people who were detracting from her racists. But now because he came out there and that was his first qualification, was dark skin and a vagina, now she's got to come back and ask again whether or not she's a diversity hire. That's not a win like F. Chuck taught it as it is. The trucker convoy and the fact that truckers are now talking about going out to D.C. and provinces in Canada, we'll talk about this later when we get to the end of it, are talking about lifting restrictions. That is an L for leftist policy in this continent. Because if they can do it in Canada, they can definitely come back and do it out in D.C. That is an L for the Biden admin. The jobs report is don't you find it a little bit convenient that this came right after employers cut 301,000 jobs, missing the mark by over 500,000 jobs, by over 500,000 jobs. And the Biden admin desperately needed to win. And oh hey, look, we got this terrorist that nobody's ever heard of. And nobody knew what this guy's name was before this. And all our officials are telling us that it's him. We've got the DNA samples. Oh, are they doing the opening ceremony right now? But yeah, that's where I'm starting to have questions here, because this is awfully convenient. An awfully conveniently scheduled win and a series of losses. Let's grab one from Newsweek here. Syria says U.S. raid on ISIS was illegal, part of the hostile agendas. Well, it took place out on their land where we're not at war with them. Whether or not it was legal, I can't tell you, because I don't know UN law, I know US law. But what I can say here is it was an encroachment on their territory. Let's see. Syrian officials told Newsweek that Washington broke international law with the U.S. raid that President Biden said led to the death of IS militant group leader Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurashi. My runny nose came back, by the way, just so you guys know. The recent U.S. raid is another flagrant violation of Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and it was all carried out on Syrian soil without coordination, approval of the Syrian government. Aliyah Ali, third secretary of the Syrian Permanent Mission to the UN, told in Newsweek. While Damascus and Washington both consider ISIS to be a terrorist organization and have actively targeted the group, Syria considers the U.S. forces to be occupiers because they do not conduct operations with the country's permission. And with the U.S.-led coalition still conducting operations against the group after former President Trump and the Pentagon-backed Syrian Democratic Forces still conducting operations against remnants of ISIS 3 years ago after declaring victory against the group, she suggested the U.S. military was using the jihadis as a pretext to pursue an ulterior motive. The claim of eliminating ISIS for several years now without actually being eliminated proves the U.S. uses the pretext of combating terrorism in order to achieve its hostile agendas against Syria, Ali said. Aliyah also referenced reports carried by both state-run and opposition-tied media outlets in the country, as well as activists on the ground, that up to 13 people died, among them civilians. Such a raid, which resulted in civilian casualties, including women and children, necessitates ensuring accountability and avoiding impunity, she said. Ironically, the U.S. Department of Defense claimed in a statement that special forces carried out a successful mission in Idlib, describing a mission that resulted in 13 civilian casualties, including women and children, as successful. Makes us wonder how many lives would have been lost if the mission had failed, she added. Ooh! Ooh! Shortly after Biden broke the news of the death of Qureshi, known as Haji Abdullah, on the morning after the operation, a senior admin official confirmed widespread reports of civilian casualties, but said they were caused by the ISIS leader detonating the explosive, much like his predecessor, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, did when he cornered by the U.S. forces in Idlib on October 2019, a story Newsweek broke at the time. This time, the blast was said to have struck innocent families residing in the building. He was hiding out in the village of Atma. So I would love to see what the international law has to say about this. And again, I don't know. I know that we should not be in other countries carrying out strikes like this, especially if we're not at war with them, and especially a country that people in that party over there have tried to destabilize numerous times. There is way more going on with this, and whether or not they actually got the guy, first and foremost, or whether this was, they told us that they killed a terrorist leader in Afghanistan, remember that? And it turned out to be a U.S. contractor carrying water to his car. I have a lot of questions about this, especially with the timing, and especially with how bad everything's been going for the Biden administration. Now, to go back to this and some of the other side to this. Now, I cited the Soleimani thing last year, or a couple years ago. I cited that, which, honestly, the timing of that as well, I think was awfully convenient. And the Trump admin coming into an election year needed a win. Oh, we took out an Iranian top general who was plotting actively against the U.S. The Trump admin needed a win. I was against the Soleimani thing. I was against the al-Baghdadi thing. And I'm against this because, I don't want to be with war. The whole warmongering thing needs to stop, especially in areas like Syria, where, the U.S. presence has destabilized things. But I've been amazed by the intellectual inconsistency of the mainstream media, and I was even a little bit amazed by a little bit of intellectual consistency with a leftoid who has a page that is absolutely full of Occupy propaganda, who said, no, I was okay with the al-Baghdadi killing. Because she had to go back and comment when I said that, the media coverage of Soleimani versus the media coverage of this dude, what was his name? Hashimi al-Qureshi, is going to be far different because, Soleimani was killed, obviously, by someone who's both evil and orange and evil. Who can never do anything right, because if he does something right, that will unravel the fabric of space and time and put us all into an extinction. Whereas Biden has no mean tweets, so he can get away with doing things like this because he has no mean tweets. Look, we shouldn't have been in any of those three situations to begin with. Period. End of story. But that's what they have coming off of that. Let's see. I gotta step up for a second. So I got a CNN video that shows the grim reality of the U.S. raid in Syria. So let's have a look at this real quick, and then we'll go back and check the ABC 7 article.
Let's go check out the reality on the ground. CNN's Arwa Damon reports that the story, what really happened, might be more complicated than what the Pentagon is saying. And we should warn you, the images in her report are graphic and disturbing.
A small body is carried down the dark stairs. The rescue workers speak in thick whispers. Wait, one warns. It's stuck. They gently coax a tiny child's corpse out from under a large slab of concrete. It's a little girl. Another small body, a boy, is carefully wrapped in a blanket. This is what is left behind after U.S. Special Forces conducted an overnight raid in Syria. Later, the White House announced that they had, quote, removed the leader of ISIS, Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi. But the reality of what happened is uglier than that simple statement, and the fog of war is filled with questions. The owner of the building says that 2 families lived here. One man, his wife, and 3 children. And his sister lived upstairs with her daughter, Abu Qutayba says. 7 bodies were found here. President Biden says it was al-Quraishi who detonated a bomb, killing himself and his family. But were there more people in the house that night? We don't know yet, but in all, at least 13 people were dead in the raid's aftermath, including 6 children. Eyewitnesses described helicopter gunships hovering overhead for hours, warnings to evacuate the house and surrender, intense gunfire, hearing multiple explosions. Light clashes occurred, and then the helicopters struck with machine guns, this man remembers. One of the strikes was here, and the rest were striking the targeted house. Did the U.S. forces fire on other buildings? Footage from the scene and the surrounding areas showed damage to multiple other buildings as well. This child's body, green socks on tiny feet, was ripped in half.
Oh.
Taking out ISIS's leader may be a win for America. It may put a temporary damper on ISIS's abilities. But ISIS will rise again, and the war on terror will leave more innocents in its wake.
So that, excuse me, that's what they had to say about this. So against my better judgment, oh, shut up, you. Let's back up because, well, I wanted to see the other video here, so we'll go see if I can find that back again. But I did find the argument that I had yesterday. It was a short one here, and we'll come back out here. So I had posted out, I bet Biden will be praised as a hero for what he did in Syria, which turns out that's not actually the case. I'm a little surprised by that. And people saying that there are actually questions about this. Varsi Appel, and this is what gets me here, and when they started talking about the fact that, especially with Syria, saying that they violated international law, again, I don't know which law they're going over and who the governing body is, but Varsi Appel was right up there, and this is 21 hours ago, to tell us, Biden didn't ignore or violate UN laws or US laws in order to make himself look good, which, if what Newsweek and everybody else is reporting is true, he kind of did. And the 45 admin, because I can't say Trump, the 45 admin was never able to prove imminent threat, which is necessary to take out the leader of another country. A country we're not at war with. And again, I don't believe that there was imminent threat there. And then I, tweeted back and said, it would have been less character to say, I'm partisan, and I elect this because of the letter after 46's name. And Varsi, of course, who, once again, who's got a profile that is littered, absolutely littered, with retweets of Occupy Democrats, who, by the way, was bounded to combat the war rhetoric of the Bush administration, but we don't talk about that. Tells us, I'm not partisan at all! I had no issue with Baghdadi. Soleimani was a different story. But so quick to tell us, before the details have come out, because they've been analyzing this all day, that no, because it was Biden, he didn't break any international laws. And, like I said, at this point, it kind of sounds like he did. All right, let's grab this one here. Biden says U.S. military kills horrible terrorist leader of Islamic State during Syria raid. Some details on who this guy is. The leader of the violent Islamic group died in a U.S. military raid Thursday, blowing himself up along with members of his family as the American Special Operations Forces assaulted his hideout in northwestern Syria, President Joe Biden said. Is it his hideout? Because, from the video that we just saw, it kind of looks more like it was his, house. It was the second time in less than 3 years that the U.S. took out a leader of the group that at the height of its power controlled more than 40,000 square miles stretching from Syria to Iraq and ruled over 8 million people. U.S. officials called the operation a significant blow to the organization, which has been trying for a resurgence, with attacks in the region, including an assault last month to seize a prison. Okay, I guess they don't really have those many details about who the guy was from that. I thought there were going to be more of that. And there's, the White House. President Biden, Vice President Harris, and members of the president's national security team observed the counterterrorism operation responsible for removing from the battlefield Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurashi, the leader of ISIS. So that's what they say coming back out of that. Let's grab, we did that one already. Let's grab one from Yahoo News. This is the one that's got the disturbing stuff. No, but we got the Biden speech for it. Biden says ISIS leader blew himself up and family during a U.S. raid in Syria, a final act of desperate cowardice. Because you busted into his home as an occupying army. Let's listen to the houseplant in chief. Oh, we have no audio.
United States military forces successfully removed a major terrorist threat to the world, the global leader of ISIS, known as Haji Abdullah. He took over as leader of ISIS in 2019 after the United States counterterrorism operation killed al-Baghdadi. Since then, ISIS has directed terrorist operations targeting Americans, our allies and our partners, and countless civilians in the Middle East, Africa, and in South Asia.
And yet we barely heard about any of these, just so you know. He's been responsible. He's carried out attacks on U.S. citizens. And yet nothing in the news about any of these. Couple other sides to this, too. First and foremost, on my orders. Yeah, no, that wasn't on your orders. I'm telling you. And second, the U.S. took out one of the most dangerous people in the world, the leader of ISIS. They'll never have another leader. Isn't that what we said about al-Baghdadi? We took out the most dangerous person in the world is safe. And yet, allegedly, here we are. Once again, I still don't believe this. I don't believe that this person was who they say that he was, but officials have told us that he is. I still don't believe it. But furthermore, and this is the more important part of this, with this guy coming back and blowing himself up and, being taken out as the most dangerous, do you think there isn't going to be another one that comes back up after him? Do you think this is the end? Are they done with their line of succession? Now they just have to break up and go home.
Asia. Haji Abdullah oversaw the spread of ISIS-affiliated terrorist groups around the world after savaging communities and murdering innocents. He was responsible for the recent brutal attack on a prison in northeast Syria holding ISIS fighters, which was swiftly addressed by our brave partners in the Syrian Democratic Forces. He was the driving force behind the genocide of the Yazidi people in northwestern Iraq in 2014. We all remember the gut-wrenching stories, mass slaughters that wiped out entire villages, thousands of women and young girls sold into slavery, rape used as a weapon of war. And thanks to the bravery of our troops, this horrible terrorist leader is no more. Our forces carried out the operation with their signature preparation and precision, and I directed the Department of Defense to take every precaution possible to minimize civilian casualties. Knowing that this terrorist had chosen to surround himself with families, including children, we made a choice to pursue a special forces raid at a much greater risk than to our own people, rather than targeting him with an airstrike. We made this choice to minimize civilian casualties. Our team is still compiling the report, but we do know that as our troops approached to capture the terrorist, in a final act of desperate cowardness, he, with no regard to the lives of his own family or others in the building, he chose to blow himself up, not just to the vest, but to blow up that third floor, rather than face justice for the crimes he has committed, taking several members of his family.
And there again, who decides what justice is? All right, let's keep going. Joe Biden takes different tone than Trump detailing killing of ISIS leader. From Xander Landon. In a speech on Thursday morning, President Brandon announced that the leader of the Islamic State, Abu Ibrahim al-Hashimi al-Qurayshi, was dead after blowing himself up as U.S. troops closed in on him in Syria. More than 2 years ago, President Trump made a similar speech about the death of ISIS's former leader, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who died after detonating a suicide vest while being cornered by U.S. troops. But Trump's speech took a different tone than Biden's, focused more on insulting the former ISIS leader. It even faced criticism for being crass. During his 2019, Trump said al-Baghdadi died like a dog, okay, the worst. He died like a dog, like a coward. In which Biden finished out the speech of, in an act of cowardness, which it's cowardice, by the way, but we won't go into the grammar off that because, I slip up too. I understand that, but if he'd have tweeted that out, people would be jumping all over him for his grammar. Well, of course, if he had an R next to his name, of course. He died like a dog. He died like a coward. The world is now a much safer place, Trump stated. He was a sick and depraved man. Now he's gone. Okay, it's the worst. Baghdadi was vicious and violent, and he died in a vicious and violent way. He was whimpering and crying and screaming all the way, okay? Worst person ever, okay? Glad he's gone. Took care of him. This is the worst, okay? Vote for me. Vote for me, President Trump. Your favorite president. I didn't see a difference between the two speeches. One warmonger of the other went back, violated international norms and international law, conducted an operation in a country that we are not at war with, and killed a person who was not at the time actively targeting U.S. civilians. But they're going to tell you it's different because it's Biden and he doesn't make mean tweets. From the Hill, Biden urges unity. We're going to be kind of shifting gears here now and going back and talking about cancer moonshot in that speech. Biden urges unity, tells McConnell, we really are friends. So this was at the prayer breakfast yesterday from Brett Samuels. President Biden on Thursday appealed for unity during the National Prayer Breakfast, which was held in person for the first time in 2 years due to the coronavirus pandemic. The president's speech focused largely on the need for lawmakers and the nation as a whole to get to know one another and get past political divisions, which he called palpable. Unity doesn't mean that we have to agree on everything. But unity is where enough of us believe in a core of basic things, Biden said. The common good, the general welfare, faith in the United States of America. Biden spoke for roughly 20 minutes, recalling his own time in the Senate and recognizing a number of senators who were in the room for the event. Mitch, I don't want to hurt your reputation, but we really are friends. What an underhanded fucking remark. And I mean, I do understand. It's not the fact that they're friends. We know they're friends. Everybody with two brain cells to rub together knows that Joe Biden and Mitch McConnell, after working together for as long as they did in the U.S. Senate, are friends. They've gone in, they worked on the same committees, they've gone out and drank at the same bars afterwards. Everybody and their brother knows that these two are friends. Every single human being in the galaxy knows that these two people are friends, but it's the I don't want to hurt your reputation. What a fucking prick move. Biden said, addressing the minority leader, Mitch McConnell, the turtle man. And that's not an epiphany we're having at the moment. You're a man of your word. Yeah, you're a man of honor. Thank you for being my friend. Is this a Golden Girls episode? What the fuck? You've got two ancient cadavers sitting up there, and one of them saying, thank you for being a friend. I don't know the lyrics to that song. I've listened to a lot of it, but I don't know it offhand. Your heart is true. You're a friend and a confidant. I know that one. Biden cautioned that the divisions are noticeable around the world, but added that the rest of the globe is looking to the U.S. to see whether it can overcome its problems. The president bemoaned how lawmakers no longer spend as much quality time together as they did when he served in the Senate, when he said that senators frequently ate lunch together and were able to see past political disagreements to get along. The thing that when you learn that another man or woman, you fly on congressional delegation, you learn that they have a kid with a problem with alcoholism or crack. Sorry, Hunter, I wasn't supposed to say that. You learn that they have a daughter who has breast cancer. It's hard to dislike that person, Biden said. And so one of the things I pray for, man, and I mean it, is we sort of get back to the place that we really know each other. The president also made note of Senator Ben Ray Lujan, who is recovering from a stroke, saying that he was praying for a quick recovery. So, Biden came out and prayed for the recovery of Ben Ray Lujan before the fucking mainstream media did. Props to Biden. Say a prayer. Dear Lord, please be with Ben Ray Lujan and his family as they recover. I don't agree with what Ben Ray Lujan has to say in the Senate, but that is no reason for him to have to suffer with a stroke. If it is your will, let him have a full recovery and come back to careers where I can come back and criticize him for his stupid ideas on economics, and be with his family, and be with him as they hope for a speedy recovery. In your name we ask this. Amen. So, yeah. We're all friends here. Now do what I say. Do my agenda. Come on, man. Let's grab one from CNN. Biden relaunches cancer moonshot initiative aimed at halving the rates of cancer deaths by 2047. Long after there's going to be a President Biden. President Biden on Wednesday relaunched the White House's Cancer Moonshot Initiative, committing the nation to working towards reducing the death rate from cancer by at least 50% over the next 25 years. Excuse me. Well, we can do this. I promise you. We can do this. For all those we lost, for all those we miss, we can end cancer now as we know it, Biden said in remarks at the White House. So this goes along, and I mean, we'll talk about a little bit more of this article for just a sec. So this goes along with another big campaign promise that Biden made when he literally came out and said that he was going to cure cancer if you guys got him into office. He was going to end the mean tweets. He was going to violate as many international laws as he could to go make sure that there was no more terrorism in the world. I might have paraphrased that one. And he was going to cure cancer. Well, first off, if the Brandon administration cures cancers the same way that they cured the not the Omicron variant, but the coronavirus, if he cures cancer that same way, well, I hope you guys kissed your grandma an extra time last time you saw her. But realistically, I mean, this is deity level stuff. I do believe that there is a cure for cancer out there. I don't believe the Family Guy line where Carter Peterschmidt has it locked up in a vault because they make more money treating cancer. But I also don't believe that they're doing everything they can to come back out for the cure for cancer. I believe that there's a cure for cancer. I do. I believe that there's somewhere out there. I would say probably within the next 50 to 70 years. It's going to be a little while yet. At some point, we are going to hear that there was a cure for cancer. Probably towards the very end of my lifetime. I think it'll happen in my lifetime, but I think it's going to be at the very, very end. that will come back out and do this. But there again, that's not what they're promising here. They're not promising to end cancer, to cure cancer. They're promising to add enough therapeutics to cut the death rate by 50% by 2047. Let's see. The president pledged to bring a fierce sense of urgency to fight against cancer and to better support cancer patients and their families. Biden named Dr. Danielle Carnival, who serves as the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, as the White House Cancer Moonshot Coordinator. The president also, so she's the new Dr. Fauci. The president also announced the formation of a cancer cabinet with representatives from the Department of Health and Human Services, Veterans Affairs, Defense, Energy, Agriculture, as well as the Environmental Protection Agency, because they've got to get into this everywhere because, you know, it's climate change that's causing cancer. The National Institutes of Health, the National Cancer Institute, and others across the executive branch. Both the President and Vice President Harris spoke about losing loved ones to cancer. In 2015, Beau Biden, the president's eldest son and former Delaware AG, died at age 46 after battling brain cancer. Which, okay, if these people can do this, these government bureaucrats can do this, I am going to say I'm all for this. But the problem is I don't believe that they can do it. Because when I look at a government program like this, all I see is a bunch of laundering of money. To be complete, honest, and open, I don't believe the government can do anything like this. I think the government sucks. But if you've been watching this channel for more than 3 episodes, you know that already. If you've been here more than 3 times, you know I think the government sucks. Hell, that flag behind me is one of the biggest indicators that I think the government sucks. But, just like what Biden and Harris both said, there has been cancer riddled in my family. I've lost 2 in my family, very close to me, to lung cancer. 3 to lung cancer. 1 to brain cancer. My ex-fiance's mother was a breast cancer survivor. I mean, it has literally been all around me, everywhere. I probably got a genetic target painted on me myself for cancer, just because of where it is in my family. It's probably a realistic thing for me. Most likely is. But if they can do it, absolutely, more power to them. But they're the government. This is probably going to take in a whole bunch of money and then... Cup game. Well, I'm not going to turn the cups over, obviously, because they're both full, but cup game, a little bit of money here, goes over here, then a little bit more comes in here, and oh, hey, we lost some of this money here. Where did that go? Here's a little bit more money. Watch the money. Can you see where the money goes? But that's what we see coming off of that. From Politico, Biden's relaunched cancer moonshot needs funding for liftoff. Because of course it does! From Sarah Owermole, President Biden's reignited moonshot to have cancer deaths, improve care, and eventually end the disease gives lift to one of his longest-held and most personal goals, but the mission hasn't been refueled. There it is! Missing from the ambitious plan to boost screening, reduce inequities, and strengthen prevention. Inequities. Cancer's not equitable, you guys! And strengthen prevention efforts is a funding boost to the existing moonshot, which is in its 6th year, of a $1.8 billion 7-year allotment from Congress. The new moonshot lands 1 year into Biden's presidency, giving the admin a long runaway to steer its progress, but also comes amid growing frustration from cancer advocates and those inside the White House who are upset with Congress for not authorizing boosted healthcare budgets and a new spending for separate Biden proposals seen as a critical partner to the relaunched moonshot, the Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health. It needs resources, no question, said Ellen Seagal, chair for Friends for Cancer Research, who has worked closely with the Moonshot program for years. All the goals are achievable, but there will have to be funding mechanisms to achieve them. The American Association for Cancer Research, in a Thursday morning letter to lawmakers, pressed for 2022 health agency budgets, including a House-proposed $400 million boost to the National Cancer Institute budget, to be approved, stressing the critical new studies would be left without financial support. So, we're almost an hour into this program at this point in the morning. I know I started a little bit late. Let's see where we're at. 57 minutes into this program. All we've talked about so far is Biden giving a speech where he's going to shuffle around money for his bureaucrat buddies and killing a terrorist, so-called, and probably violating a dozen international laws to do this. But there you go. Biden's going to cure cancer, you guys. Are you ready? Are you ready for that? All right, what else do we have? Let's see. So in another speech, and especially in the one, he made a couple of statements about gun control, which I thought you guys would like. This one comes to the recount. Let's not just read the caption. Let's just listen to what he has to say.
It's really a weapon of war. One of the things I was proudest of years ago when I was in the Senate, I was able to get these weapons and the size of magazines outlawed. That got changed. It got overruled, but I don't see any rationale why there should be such a weapon able to be purchased. It doesn't violate anybody's Second Amendment rights to deny that of it. But anyway, their futures were cut short by a man with a stolen Glock and that 40-round magazine, and it's really a weapon of war.
So, I mean, here's my first question. Where can I get a Glock with a 40-round magazine? Asking for a friend. Can you imagine carrying that thing around? I mean, even the extended mags in Fallout 4 only give you like 24. A Glock with a 40 round. But, I mean, if there is such a thing, that's one of the big problems with this too. And, you know, lowers are what are regulated by the NFA. It's your 80% lower. It's basically the magazine is what's regulated. And anything else that you want to put on there, if you've got the ability, the machining ability, or the ability to purchase, the money to do so, you can buy off to the other side. And that does include 3D printing an extra mag, whether it be extended or not. So, I mean, even if you come back out and outlaw this, you know, everybody's got a 3D printer. We've got machine shops everywhere. And I said this in my debate with Rob from the Generational Gap, when he was talking about the fact that, oh, well, what are you going to do when they come out here and they come back and outlaw this and everything? I said, Rob, I can make a short drive right now and have access to a lathe. I'm not going to say where, but I can have access to a lathe, every caliper I could possibly need, every bit of tooling I could possibly need, and I can make another short drive in another direction and have access to the CNC to do the lower. The cat's out of the bag at this point. But this is the one that's really making the rounds. This one comes to us from townhall.com. Let's listen to this one.
Making sure that people who are not allowed to have a gun don't get the gun in the first place. And again, for any of the press listening, this doesn't violate anybody's Second Amendment right. There's no violation of a Second Amendment right. We talk like there's no amendment that's absolute. When the amendment was passed, it didn't say
Before we get into the actual gaffe of this here, you know, he says there's no amendment that's absolute. It's pretty sure, I'm pretty positive by this point, when you hear the words "Congress shall make no law," that's absolute. That's pretty fucking absolute.
Anybody can own a gun and any kind of gun and any kind of weapon. You couldn't buy a cannon, and when this amendment was passed.
Fact check. Yes, you could. And in fact, you could buy a warship armed to the teeth with said cannons. If it is, and this goes to the argument. And I hate to pick on Matt Christensen because I don't watch his show anymore because of the argument that we had off to the side of this, but his example was the best one that I can use off of this. His example is the best one that I can use off of this because it kind of shows the cuckening of some of the ideas of gun laws when he talks about should anybody be able to own nuclear weapons. And his standard for this is, and you know, I may not like him personally, but he does still, for the most part, usually have good commentary. But no, it's not off this one. No, for the firearm that you own, it should be small and precise enough to defend your property without harming anybody else. Yes, in a perfect world, that's true. In an absolute perfect world, we're a government that the Second Amendment was meant to beat the fuck back off, and not in that way. I just realized how that came out. The government that the Second Amendment was designed to be able to beat back is not going to be concerned about sieging and taking your house with precision to seize and take what is now their house without harming somebody else's property, because they don't give a fuck. They're going to try not to damage the infrastructure around your home, so that they have to repair it in order to make the property that they just seized functional. But if it comes down to it, they're going to use whatever they have at their arsenal to do so, and you should be able to. And that comes down to should civilians be able to own nuclear weapons? To which I always say yes, with a caveat. If you can afford to buy the, $12.3 million nuclear warhead, and the several billion-dollar ICBM that goes with it, and can maintain said equipment and store it safely, you should be able to buy whatever the fuck you want. If you can afford the upkeep costs, yeah, it's going to suck for a lot of people around you, but if you can afford the upkeep costs, the initial cost of purchasing the weapon, the cost of storing it, the cost of maintaining it, the cost of making sure that you don't turn your neighbors into fucking ghouls from the radiation, have at it. The government's going to think twice about sending people to your house for your little bit of for your $40 in taxes. Well, if you've got that kind of money, it's more than $40 in taxes, but you get what I'm saying here. And yeah, absolutely. But for the most part, unless your last name is Bezos or Musk, you probably don't have the money to purchase, store, and properly maintain said weapons. But when this amendment was passed, you couldn't buy a cannon. Yes, you could. Oh, yes, you absolutely could. All right, let's see, what else do we have? This is an interesting thread, and I put this on here because I wanted to take some time and talk about what it is that Felicia Sonmez had to say. Because at the press briefings, they were talking about Russia as well on top of this here. Felicia Sonmez says, at today's White House and State Department press briefings, reporters pressed for evidence to back up U.S. government statements about recent events in Syria and Russia, respectively. In response, officials suggested those reporters might be more inclined to believe the ISIS/the Kremlin. Yikes. Sonmez goes on and says, aboard Air Force One, a reporter asked White House press secretary red-haired bobblehead for evidence to back up the claim that Karachi detonated a suicide bomb. Psaki asked whether skeptics think the U.S. military is not providing accurate information, which it probably isn't, and ISIS is providing accurate information. The reporter did not back down. But I mean, the U.S. has not always been straightforward about what happens with civilians, she said, and I mean, that is a fact. Then at the State Department, a spokesman, Ned Price, was repeatedly asked for evidence to the U.S. government's claim that Russia plans to create a false flag propaganda video as a pretext for invading the Ukraine. Price responded, if you doubt the credibility of the U.S. government, of the British government, of other governments, and want to, find solace in information the Russians are putting out, that is for you to do. Yikes! Holy shit! I'm probably going to do some digging over the weekend and see if I can find video of them saying that. Sanmez continues, it's the job of reporters to ask for proof to back up government statements. Doing so does not mean one believes propaganda put out by U.S. adversaries. I imagine these officials know that. Are they simply throwing out these accusations in an effort to deter further questions? The reporters in question were NPR White House correspondent Aisha Rasco, I think that is. Yes, Aisha Rasco. And AP diplomatic writer Matt Lee. So, I mean, these are not... I mean, it's not like the Daily Wire or Fox News is coming out asking these questions. This is NPR, which we've read from numerous times on this channel, as leftist as you can get, and the Dissect Press, which is supposed to be an unbiased source, but once again, we read from them all the time, and if they are an unbiased source, they are trickling over towards NPR territory very, very quickly. But I mean, this is a big, big yikes right here. Holy shit. We've got proof of life on Harvey McCloud. Thank you, Harvey McCloud. We were going to ask about that because we're just about to go talk about what's happening in Texas. But I mean, this is a big yikes. Oh, hey, you don't believe what we're putting out here right away? Why don't you go ask ISIS about what happened? Hey, why don't you go ask Russia what happened? Big yikes. Holy shit. Like, they talk about transparency in government, and then they do this, like, hey, you just believe the narrative that we tell you to. Don't ask questions. You're not supposed to be asking questions for us. We're Democrats. That's the message I'm getting back up out of this. This is big, big. And the worst part of this is, speaking of the fact that we're talking about, these are reporters from the Dissect Press and National Progressive Radio. This threat here is coming from a Washington Post political reporter. I'm just looking over at her profile over here, right here. Another publication that is massively friendly to people like Biden. So, holy shit. All right, let's talk a little bit of Texas from AccuWeather first. You know what, let's not use that one. Hopefully my enemies have not seen the little bit of doxing that got done on that. Fuck you, AccuWeather. From KXAN. I have many enemies in many places. Texas winter storm live updates. Frigid Friday in store. From Billy Gates, Jacqueline Ramkisoon, Kelsey Thompson, Grace Reeder, Mayra Monroy, and Kate Winkle. Thursday's winter storm that brought freezing rain and sleet has now moved on, but a wind and chill advisory is in place. The storm brought ice accumulations as high as 0.3 inches in the Austin area, and elevated roadways were iced over and dangerous. Travel is highly discouraged through midday on Friday. A wind chill advisory is in place through 9 a.m. on Friday, with the wind chill values in the single digits for most of the central Texas area. And here's some live updates for you. At 7 a.m., a wrecked car on RM 2222 in northwest Austin couldn't be towed immediately due to icy road conditions, APD said. The car's been on the shoulder of the roads near McNeil Drive overnight, and no one was inside when officers got to the scene. The tow truck should be able to get up there after sunrise to get it. It's just another example of how icy some roads still are in the area. 6:30, Cap Metro will again begin to operate its critical service schedule from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. as icy roads persist. On Friday, buses will work in 30-60-minute frequencies. City of Austin non-essential services are closed today due to the weather. Austin Resource Recovery has stopped trash collection services for the rest of the week and will resume next week. Customers won't be charged for excess trash when services resume on your regularly scheduled day. Plenty of cancellations at Austin Bergstrom International Airport, JetBlue. Some have stopped their arrivals completely. Alaska, JetBlue, Allegiant. Departures, Aeromexico, Alaska, and Allegiant. So, I mean, it's just a mess out here. The advantage for what you guys are having going on there, if you call it this, is if I understand correctly, it was pretty warm prior to this, which means that your ground is still pretty warm. So yes, you'll have a day or two of ice because of the initial, like the cold snap in the air. And then what fell fresh. But, you know, from experiencing this for my entire life, every other week in Wisconsin, when your ground is warm, when your ground temperature is warm, that stuff will clear up pretty quick. We've had some, like in October, November, when we get snowstorms that early up here, where because it was 50 degrees on Monday, and the temperature dropped to 28 degrees on Tuesday and dumped a foot of snow on us. The temperature remained in the 28 degree range as we went along, but the snow melted within a day or two because the ground was still 55 degrees. In spite of the fact that the roads were impassable when there was a foot of snow, the roads and pretty much the grass was almost clear by the next day because the ground was still warm. So the advantage for you guys, take heart off of this, is this should clear up relatively quickly. Hunker down, make sure that all your people are taken care of. And come back and kind of hang out. And Randy can say the same thing too, because he's from a similar climate and a similar latitude to where I am. You've seen it too, Randy. But that's what we see off of that. Let's grab one from NBC News. Putin breaks his silence on the Ukraine, but leaves the world guessing about Russia's next move. Well, perhaps all those reporters can go ask Russia. Especially if they don't believe the U.S. narrative. From Yulia Talmazan. Russian President Vladimir Putin has broken his month-long public silence on the standoff between Moscow and the West over the Ukraine, but has still left the world guessing about his next move. For weeks, the U.S. and its European allies have warned that a Russian invasion could be imminent. It's a Russian disinformation invasion. Ha ha ha, Orange Man! Just joking. Leaving them scrambling to support the Ukraine and searching for diplomatic breakthroughs while threatening severe consequences for the Kremlin. But even as Russia amasses more than 100,000 troops at its neighbor's doorstep, Putin's intentions continue to be the source of great scrutiny and little clarity. Is he readying an attack on the Ukraine, the former Soviet state that has drifted away from Moscow, or using the show of military force to try to secure concessions from Washington and its allies? On Wednesday, President Biden approved the deployment of U.S. troops in Eastern Europe. A new satellite images appear to show an increased Russian troop buildup on the Ukraine border. Honk honk. Putin's first public comments about the crisis since December indicated that Moscow was nonetheless still open to diplomacy. Putin took on a defiant tone Tuesday, accusing the US and NATO of not just ignoring Moscow's key demands, but also using the Ukraine as a tool in its efforts to contain Russia and lure it into war. He also warned of a future scenario in which the Ukraine was admitted to NATO and then tried to recapture the Crimean Peninsula, which Russia annexed in 2014, leading to the potential for a military clash with the Transatlantic Alliance. Here is the problem. And we heard Jen Psaki, when the fox is screaming at the top of the henhouse, that bullshit fucking statement that she had to make yesterday. Here's some of the problem with what's going on here. I play a lot of war games, I play a lot of StarCraft. And yes, I understand that the missions in StarCraft were written to be as dramatic as possible. But I look at the Ukraine. I look at Crimea. Let's grab the Ukrainian map here. Like we do every time we talk about this. Maps. Let's move that up over here. So, here's the Ukraine. Do we have a topographical? Yeah, terrain map. So there's the Ukraine right there. I mean, we see some mountainous regions. The mountains of the Caucasus over here. And yeah, I mean, there's Moldova and Romania that are not allied out to this. Moldova and Romania are allied to Europe, obviously, and the EU. I believe Romania is an EU state, but don't quote me on that. That might not be true. But Russia has already annexed the Crimean Peninsula, and you can see that with the disputed border over here, that this is Russia now. And they put the dashed line in to say that the border is... I mean, Google Maps is really good about that and making sure that you know that that's a disputed border. But right now, the talk is the Donbass region over here, where Russian allied people live. People who are allied to Russia, who don't want to be a part of the Ukraine, they live over here in this region. And there are the talks, of the incursion. That's one of the things that Biden's trying to tell us right now, is that there could be the incursion that goes over to here and maybe just slices this region of the Ukraine back off. But, there are other things where people are talking about taking this area. I don't see a strategic advantage to Russia taking the Ukraine. The only strategic advantage I could see, and let's get a roadmap actually up here, is a fairly long and open roadway that goes through the mountain range here. Forgive me, my European geography is a little bit off, but coming out and going into Europe to go sell oil via roadway, you've got a mountain range here and a mountain range here that Russia has to go over the top of in order to get into, which means going up and down and hitting the engine brake and everything else that you got to do to get everything back up there to transport oil by train or truck. Whereas coming down through the Ukraine with the roadways already in place, you've got pretty well a straight shot coming out here in Poland, up through Warsaw and then up through the rest of the European Union. And then just a couple mountains as you get to the other side of Poland. But other than that one roadway, I cannot see any strategic advantage to taking the Ukraine. And now people tell us that Russia just wants a warm water port to come through the Black Sea. Okay. To go through the Black Sea, you have to go through a canal that's controlled by Turkey, an EU member, via Istanbul, and another canal that goes around still Turkey. And actually, that's still Turkey too. I thought that was Greece, but that's Turkey as well. So even if you have your warm water port, you are still beholden to the EU. I don't see any strategic advantage, military or otherwise. And then, of course, you've got to go down through the Mediterranean as well, surrounded by Egypt, whom you've pissed off, Libya, Tunisia, on one side, and the EU on the other side. Where is the military strategic advantage here? I need somebody to explain that to me, because I cannot wrap my head around that, what the strategic advantage of taking the Ukraine is for Europe, or for Russia. As far as I can tell, looking at the map, there is none. Other than that one highway to go back and sell oil, but, if you've taken a European state against NATO's wishes, yes, right now, with the U.S. not exporting oil, I can see problems where, they'd have a problem getting oil other than going through, again, Turkey out of the Middle East. But other than that, they're beholden to Russia for their oil. But if they stop buying because Russia pissed them off, which whether or not they have the wherewithal to do so, we don't know. That highway there isn't going to mean a whole hill of beans. But they keep telling us that this is a strategic advantage for Russia to come back out and do this. All right, from CNBC. Holy shit, we're up on the clock too. All right, we got to see if we can get at least through here. I want to see if we can get to this Daily Wire. I don't think we're going to get that far. But let's see if we can get at least to that one. From CNBC, a Russian invasion of the Ukraine could send shockwaves through financial markets. In other news, water is wet. From Patty Dom, the highly unpredictable nature of Russia's threat against the Ukraine has rippled across financial markets without much impact on stocks, but if Russia were to move its troops across the border, it could cause a major risk-off event, sending equities lower and commodity prices higher, unless you happen to have stock in Raytheon. Oops, did I say that out loud? The U.S. plans stinging sanctions if Russia moves into the Ukraine. Russia, which says it has no intention to invade, could inflict pain on the rest of the world through its stronghold on some key commodities. Oil is one of them. For now, the markets are not pricing any such calamity, but oil prices would spike and European gas prices could surge even more than they already have if Russian troops enter the Ukraine. Oil and some other commodity prices have already built in some premium, and Russian assets have been hit. If there were an invasion, the dollar could strengthen. Oh, that's a funny joke, CNBC. U.S. bond yields would likely move lower. That's also funny. And commodities, including wheat and palladium, would rally. Yeah, palladium would rally. Wheat would not. Oh, that's funny, though. The U.S. dollar could strengthen. There's another round of U.S.-Russian talks as long as they're going. It's hard to imagine Russia would go to war, said Mark Chandler, chief market strategist at Bannockburn Global Forex. He noted that the Russian ruble, off 2.2% for the year, outperformed other emerging market currencies in the past 5 days with a 4.1% gain. Yeah, no shit. Unless you have stock in defense contractors, no shit. If Russia goes in to invade, that throws the supply chain coming into Europe, especially if it's coming through the Middle East, into chaos. It changes the price of oil for everybody in Europe, which means diesel fuel to get the stuff from, because in Europe they do have a lot of stuff that they do internally. Textiles, their own farming, they can do some of that with some of the land that they still have left over, which is not, there's not much. But they do some stuff internally, and getting that around Europe becomes an infinite challenge if they've got to take everything across the canals that we looked at, coming into Turkey to get their oil in from the Middle East. That is a massive choke point. And that will change commodity prices as we go. I don't think the US dollar is going to strengthen. I think that's a fucking pipe dream. But that's what they're telling us is going to happen. So, of course, if we don't believe what they think is going to happen, we could always go and ask Russia. All right. Let's grab a couple more. Like I say, I want to see if we can get to this Daily Wire one. I don't think we can, because it's 9. From the New York Post, Whoopi Goldberg livid, threatening to quit The View over her suspension. Source. Bye! Wait. We get a sounder for that. Ready? And enough. From Alexandria Stigrad. Whoopi Goldberg is livid after she was suspended from The View over her claim that the Holocaust was not about race, and is telling coworkers she's going to quit the show, according to a source. Goldberg, 60. She's only 66? Holy shit. Ooh. That was a rough 66 years. Goldberg feels humiliated at being disciplined by ABC execs after she followed their advice to apologize for the ill-conceived comments. A well-placed insider told The Post. She feels ABC executives mishandled this. She followed their playbook. She went on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert and apologized again on The View the next day, a source said. So, whether or not she actually does this, or comes back to The View, or comes back to The View with a scathing remark, this is actually something that we have to wait and see on off of this. I will point out, how we feel about anonymous sources here. A source, an unnamed source, a well-placed source. We don't typically trust them around here. I can see where it's humiliating for Goldberg to be going through this, but do keep in mind, this is well-placed anonymous source and unnamed, and we can't tell you who this person is, but I mean, it's fun to joke about and everything too, but do take this with the appropriate grain of salt. All right. From Fox Business. This is from a couple days ago. National debt tops $30 trillion. That's right. Just like predicted. Actually, a little bit earlier than I predicted because I was thinking April. We have capped $30 trillion in the U.S. national debt. From Breck Dumas. The U.S. national debt has surpassed $30 trillion according to the latest data released by the Treasury Department, marking a new milestone as government spending continues to surge. This is a developing story and will be updated. Well, we have raised the debt ceiling to $31.3 trillion. Why, oh why, are we getting to $30 trillion in national debt, I wonder? Is it from the fact that we keep printing money, or we keep spending, or we keep doing all this stupid fucking bullshit? We're at $30 trillion national debt. That's it. That's the story. Just like I said we were going to be. I told you this was going to happen. A little bit of a white pill for you here. Which Global News is pissed off because we can see that you have an ad blocker on, but they're still going to let me read this one. In the future, we're going to have to start archiving this. Fast or slow, provinces plan to vary for dropping COVID-19 restrictions. From Kelly Geraldine Malone. Saskatchewan's premier says she's committed to ending all pinko pox restrictions soon, while other provinces are laying out more gradual plans for easing public health measures. What's necessary is your freedom. What's necessary is getting back your life back to normal. Premier Scott Moe sent a video posted to social media. It's time. Moe said the pinko pox is not going away, but people are done with having to follow public health orders, so normalizing the virus and learning to live with it is the achievable option. Saskatchewan has posted its highest level of hospitalizations in the pandemic because Global News has to tell you that, because Saskatchewan, if they're going to be cutting their restrictions, is being entirely irresponsible because they've hit their highest hospitalizations ever. And the Saskatchewan Medical Association is warning that loosening health measures would strain the healthcare system. Moe, moving at pace similar to Premier Jason Kenney in Alberta, is planning to have no restrictions by the end of the month. Leaders elsewhere are laying out a slower approach to easing orders. Newfoundland and Labrador Premier Andrew Fury, who is also an orthopedic surgeon, said Thursday he understands people are frustrated with lengthy restrictions, but he said any changes must be done with caution. And this, coupled with this story, from The Blaze, Trudeau says, there are no plans to call in military to end Freedom Convoy protest, eh? From Chris Pandolfo. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau told reporters Thursday that there are no plans to deploy the Canadian military to end anti-vaccine mandate protests in Ottawa. One has to be very cautious, before deploying military situations, engaging other Canadians, Trudeau said, who has fiercely criticized the protesters as a small fringe minority. This is not something we're looking at right now, eh? There's no question of sending in the army, he emphasized. The Prime Minister said the Canadian government will take the Syria's formal request, but have the military step in to end the protests, but added that so far, no such requests have been made. As of now, there have been no requests, and that's not in the cards right now, he said. According to Reuters, more than 200 trucks and other vehicles have formed a blockade in Ottawa's downtown area since last Friday, when a freedom convoy descended on the Canadian capital to demand an end to the Pinko Pox mandate. So between this and the fact that now some of your western provinces, who are usually not faithful to Ottawa or Trudeau anyway, are starting to step down their mandates, it's kind of telling me that the truckers won this one. It's kind of telling me that the truckers came out of this ahead and said, hey, we can shut you down. And if you try to force us to work otherwise, you'll have to explain to your people why you're keeping people in slavery with the threat of imprisonment or possibly death if they don't come back and work. Or we can at least sit down and have the talk. George Alexopoulos, this came to us via Golden Leaf, friend of the show. I know multiple people who've been given the choice to either vaccinate or voluntarily resign from their jobs, in other words, fired. Forcing someone to choose between their health and income should be a crime in the US. In fact, it is. And with that, we will listen to Shaq.
Look, I encourage everybody to be safe and take care of your family. I do. But there's still some people that don't want to take it. And you shouldn't have to be forced to take something that you don't want. So
I don't think people are being forced to take. Well, there are some. I mean, listen, we have a mandate at CBS.
That's force.
We have a mandate at CBS. But my point.
That's force.
But where I wholeheartedly.
That's force.
No, it's not force.
It is force, because if the man don't take it, the man gonna get fired. Look, I encourage everybody to be safe and take care of your family.
And that's it, too. And really, honestly, and like I've said at the beginning, yes, I understand that a lot of these people have great jobs. And I've said the same thing for the federal contractors. I've said the same thing for the healthcare workers, which I don't believe that the government should be doing that for the healthcare workers either. I understand where they have the power to do so, and I hate the fact that they have the power to do so. But I understand why they have the power to do so. But really, honestly, if these companies are going to come back out and do the force, unless you actually want this vaccine, which, if you want it, go and get it. And if you want it, and you can't go out and get it because your car is broken, you don't have a car, or something like that, you call your buddy J. Edgar, and I will bring you to get to your appointment. As long as you don't pressure me to go back and do the same thing, I will bring you, because I want everybody to do with their body what they think is best for their body, for their family, for their income. As long as they don't demand that I do something with my body that I don't want to do because they think it's best for their family or otherwise. If you want this thing, go and get it. I encourage you, go and get it. But it's also time to start walking away from some of these companies that have the mandates. It's time to stop giving them your support. And based Shaq, too, by the way. Thank you, Golden Leaf, for this one here. Razor Fist. This also came into the Discord. Thank you, Seawall. Razor Fist. Weird! The moment that the Wuhan leak started to point to Western funding from big establishment types, it's suddenly okay for Hollywood and Soros to dump on China. Let's listen to Mr. Soros himself.
Xi Jinping has done his best to dismantle Deng Xiaoping's achievements. He brought private companies established under Deng under the control of the CCP and undermined the dynamism that used to characterize them. Rather than letting private enterprise blossom, Xi Jinping introduced his own China dream that can be summed up in 2 words: total control. That has had disastrous consequences. Xi Jinping has done his best to dismantle Deng Xiaoping's achievements.
So yes, now Soros is dumping on China, now that they found out that there's a connection between Western money and the Pinko Pox. Let's talk a little bit about the Supreme Court, and after that, I think we're going to get out of here. We'll do a live chat first, and then we'll get out of here for the day. From CNN, top Republicans leery of major Supreme Court fight as some conservatives itch for battle. From Lauren Fox and Manu Raju, Senator Kevin Cramer had just arrived at the U.S. Capitol Monday night when he found Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell turtling around doing turtley stuff on the floor of the Senate. His message to the GOP leader, avoid a messy confirmation fight for President Biden's first Supreme Court pick. McConnell agreed. Oh my God, is there going to be some intelligence coming out of the U.S. Senate in this one? He was already there, Cramer said, recalling the episode, and the North Dakota Republican added, let's not change the momentum of this midterm election because we're going to change the makeup of the court. Why spend a lot of time on that hill? As they gear up for battle, GOP leaders are counseling their members to take a measured approach to their advice. Vet the nominee thoroughly, make your point about her record, and avoid the personal and blistering attacks, especially given that the nominee most certainly won't change the ideological balance of the court. Moreover, Republicans are growing more bullish by the day about their chances in the midterm elections and are worried that going too hard at a black female nominee, the first in history, could turn off middle-of-the-road voters, just as they're trying to get them to focus on the country's economic challenges. We think it's probably not the kind of event that's going to drive people to the polls, Minority Whip John Thune, a South Dakota Republican, told CNN of the confirmation fight. We think that the people are going to determine who the majority is in the House and the Senate in 2022 and are going to be looking at issues like the economy and inflation and the border and crime and cities and things like that. While the GOP strategy won't be hashed out until Biden makes his pick, Thune's comments are a remarkable acknowledgement about how top Republicans view the shifting political dynamics over the court. No, that is not what any of this is. That is, in fact, completely opposite of what this is. Here, I'm going to tell you exactly what this is, exactly what's happening. McConnell knows what a lot of us have been saying since the beginning. With Kennedy, and yes, to an extent with Barrett's death, which is part of the reason they tried to ram Barrett through. And this is showing some intelligence on McConnell's part, both on the Barrett confirmation and on Kennedy's retirement. Both of these are situations that were expected to carry the nominee across the midterm line, so that was going to be the single issue that people voted to. I'm sorry, not the midterm line, but the election day line. So that was going to be the single issue that people voted on. And that's probably part of the reason, by the way, that this terrorist attack, or this attack on the terrorists, rather. Well, it was a terrorist attack either way. But this attack on the terrorists went off the way that it did. Because I'm pretty positive that Joe Biden knows at this point that McConnell's just going to roll over and let whoever he puts in, unless he puts in some super duper uber radical in there, McConnell's going to roll over and confirm whoever the fuck he wants at this point to make this go quickly and make sure that this next election, this midterm election, isn't a single issue election. Which, there again, with Breyer retiring, this sounds to me like they were trying to make this into a single issue election, a complete single issue election. The only thing that you're voting on when you go to the polls is whether or not the Senate can confirm Biden's nominee. And it's the same thing with Barrett. If Biden had waited, or I'm sorry, not Biden. If McConnell had waited with Barrett and didn't carry her over, that's all the election would have been in 2020. It would be a single issue election, not a honk honk election, but a single issue election. Who do you want to pick the next Supreme Court pick? You know how I know that? Because that's one of the big issues. And for Trump Clinton, that wasn't a single issue. But it was one of the big issues. There were other problems coming out of the Obama admin that Clinton had to answer for, and Clinton herself was a terrible candidate. But that was one of the top issues of that, is who do you want nominating your Supreme Court pick? For Scalia. And McConnell knows that if this carries over through the midterms, he might be toast. He might be fucked. Not because this will change the ideological makeup of the court, but because the news media will try to tell you that the Republicans are just trying to change the ideological makeup of the court. So that's what we see off of that. And we'll do the last one here. We'll do the one from the Daily Wire. We got there. We'll do this one, then we'll do live chat and head out of here for the day. From the Daily Wire, will he make a similar pledge? CBS reporter presses red-haired bobblehead on Biden appointing Asian American, LGBTQ American to SCOTUS. From Virginia Cruto. Well, there's no such thing as an LGBTQ American. It's just an American. And we can watch it happen. CBS White House correspondent Wei Zhang asked Press Secretary Red-Haired Bobblehead whether President Joe Biden was willing to make a pledge to appoint an Asian American or a member of the LGBTQIAPPIRGMT plus 764 LTR community to the court. During Wednesday's press briefing, Zhang noted Biden's promise to continue to diversify the High Court and his campaign pledge to fill the first possible vacancy with a black woman, a diversity hire. There again, my opinion on that stands. If he hadn't come out and said, it's going to be a black woman no matter what, he could have put a black woman in there, and then we could have labeled the people who were detractors against her, especially if she had a qualified record, like Jackson Brown, or Brown Jackson, I cannot think of her name right now. If the woman had a qualified record like that woman did, then we could come back and call all these right-wing radio hosts and the Glenn Becks and the Ben Shapiros of the world racist because all they look at is the woman's race. But Biden got up on the debate stage and said, "No, it's going to be a black woman, no matter what." That's why I say diversity hire. But let's listen to Wei Zhang and Red-Haired Bobblehead.
And then just one more on the Supreme Court. Given the president's commitment to diversify it, will he make similar pledges? Should he have another opportunity to nominate someone? For example, there's never been an Asian American justice or an LGBTQ justice. So will he make a similar pledge?
Well, I would say that about judges or just in general, I would say that if you look at the president's record of judges, circuit court judges, lower court judges, it speaks for itself. He has had a enormous number of judges he has nominated who are people of color, who are women. He has nominated and confirmed an extraordinarily diverse bench of qualified individuals to serve on the courts, and that is certainly a priority for him. I don't have any new pledges to announce for you, but I think I would point you to his record, which speaks to his commitment to ensuring the court is more diverse, lower courts are more diverse, the higher courts are more diverse, and that is something he certainly will continue to look at as a priority.
And I mean, good on this woman for coming back up here. Good on Wei Zhang for coming up here and asking the question. I mean, is it about qualifications or is it about skin color at this point? Which it does seem to be completely about skin color. I don't think Biden can get away with nominating a white male for the Supreme Court. I don't think that he could. I think that the leftoids and even the people, even if it's the most qualified justice that ever lived, if he nominated a white male, the leftoids and the neoliberals together would come together and carry him out of the White House, and we'd never see Joe Biden again. And then we'd have to listen to the Kamala cackle for the rest of the term until she got voted out. We're not doing any more today. We're done. At the end of this, on the end of Friday, we always come back and check in with the live chat and see what everybody did. You guys have been busy today. We might not be able to get some of the first messages off of today's. No, we are not going to be able to get. I mean, this goes all the way back to 8/21. That's the furthest back my tracker goes. So if you're watching before that and you don't think your message got through, go back through and do another one here. Randy is here. Did Biden not get the memo that it's been Moscow Mitch for the last 4 years? Seriously, how many things this guy says opposite of his base? How are we the crazy ones for thinking the selection results were a fraud? Ben Wild says, hey, people here just chilling. Yeah, we had 100 messages before we even got to the point where we're reading here just about. KTZed wasn't paying attention. Thought you said moonshine. I thought moonshine cures cancer. Well, if it does, I've got a jar of the real stuff here. 80s Kid says, just like he ended the virus. KTZed says, get ready for a cancer vaccine. And KTZed says there's been a cure for cancer since the 80s. We're going to watch this here to see if we've got to come back, jump back, and catch up here before this goes away on us here. But let's check in with the week before we get into the rest of this here. Thank you guys for keeping the messages flowing too, by the way. On Monday, we had Ron Helton, Quest Fanning, Marie Maybe Golay, McConnell Smuggles Coke, Set of a Campus Bear, Harvey McLeod joined us on Monday, KTZed, Random Randy Crush Saga, I should say, Life to the Max and Shalaga. On Tuesday, we had Ben Wild, Ron Helton, Quest Fanning, Shalaga 1984, Arvolt 24, Chaos Soul, KTZed, MK Ultra Bear. I'm sorry, it's not Bear anymore, it's MK Ultra 3330. I've known some of these people for a while, so we got a 80s kid lost his dad, sister-in-law, 3 cousins, a nephew, and auntie, at least 3 of my friends to cancer, and then I see begging advertisements on TV for me to donate. Ron Helton says, yeah, right. Randy says, seeing how the chief health person in Illinois said that a patient going home on a hospice to die of cancer will still be counted as a COVID death if they tested positive. I believe they really could cut the cancer death rate. Ron has lost several members to cancer as well. Wednesday gave us Quest Fanning, Ron Helton, Randy Crush Saga, Marie Maybe Golay, Beat Me Up, Mr. Scott was here on Wednesday, Spartan 0000, Superior, KTZed, 80s Kid, Chilaga 1984, Arvolt 24. Yesterday you guys were really busy too. Yesterday we had Ben Wild, MK Ultra 3330, Ron Helton, 80s Kid, Random Randy, which is now Randy Crush Saga. It's like Simon, who was called Peter. The name changes. Marie Maybe Golay, Chilaga 1984, Set of a Candace Bear came and joined us again yesterday. Linda Cloud was here telling us that she had some job offers out there in Big Bend. And Spartan 0000, Superior 1. Let's see what the rest of you guys are saying today. Now that we've come back up to the top, Ron Helton says, cancer shot. Yep, a wild shot that does nothing but spend trillions of dollars and rewards political allies. Randy says, literally says, let me be clear, even knowing that cancer, let's see, even though that cancer was the cause of death, if positive would be considered a pinko pox death. Chilaga says it's Dr. Ezekiel or something. 80s Kid says, my dad died of lung cancer in 2004. My brothers died from brain cancer last year. My neighbor's daughter died a few months ago from brain cancer, age 20. F in the chat for 80s Kid. Arvolt says the cancer vaccine isn't as far out there as you can imagine. A lot of cancers are demonstrably caused by viruses. The HPV vaccine is literally a cancer vaccine. That's interesting. I didn't realize that. Ron Helton says a person dying of stage 4 cancer with COVID, in my opinion, died of cancer, not the coof. The coof is just another complication. No, that's not true, because then we can't pump the numbers back up and say that the Orange Man killed almost 1 million people. And if you notice, too, the 600,000 or so that passed away under Biden's watch are still counted as Trump deaths. Randy says it was a black world that was the head of the Department of Health in Illinois. Black world. Hot 80s Kid says people that voted for Brandon has stage 4 retardation. Well, that'll be the end of YouTube for the day, but thanks everybody for watching on YouTube. I'm the only person on Turns of Pages that has never had a punitive action taken against me by YouTube, by the way. So if I get popped for a week, so be it. You guys will find me on other channels. Randy says, I thought the most for Glock was 30 to 32. Yeah, that's a mag, like fucking that. '80s Kid says, when Brandon talks, he slurs like he's been chucking back on some of Grandpa's cold medicine. Sometime, especially if I play a game stream, you guys will see me slurring like I threw back on some of Gramps' cold medicine. Randy says being able to shoot more without loading doesn't make it a weapon of war. That would mean that grenades and missiles wouldn't be weapons of war due to their slower fire rate. That's an interesting way to do that. Ron says all gun laws are illegal. Why are we even arguing this nonsense? Because there's virtue signaling to be done. Shall not infringe is a clear statement for me. They have not amended the Second Amendment. Therefore, all their damn gun laws are illegal. Randy says, I would run on equal gun rights, voter reform, and not all lives matter. And Randy says, yes, it's so crazy that he uses this example because we have actual documentation supporting the exact thing from the Founding Fathers. We do, indeed. Actual documentation. '80s Kid says if criminals can't get a gun, they'll just get a bat, a knife, a rock, a car. They can all kill the same. Killer's going to kill. Well, we're going to have some Ford Escape control coming up here in the near future. Although it was the Ford Escape that did all the killing, not Darrell Brooks Jr. Harvold says, remember LA riots in '92? Yeah, I need fucking cannons. Yeah. Ron Hunt says a guy into a bar fight over Mayo in Iowa, killed him with his vehicle, ran him over several times. Randy says, was it Jefferson that wrote the letter to the privateer asking if he can have a cannon, responding that, yeah, why wouldn't you have a cannon? Ron says, yeah, weird that cannons were commonplace on the open sea. Now it's nearly impossible to arm your private boat if you enter the waters of other countries. Yes, yes it is. KTZed says she could store and maintain an RPG, just saying. Well, don't hurt your neighbors with it. Harvey McLeod is here. Well, Harvey's here, start over. Ben is saying, sorry I'm not contributing much. I could make a lame excuse, but I'm just a loser. No, you're awesome, Ben. Randy says, hopefully this time they won't turn off the utilities, which is what led to the problems they had last time. Harvey did not get to single digits here. We are in single digits right now. It was 1 when I woke up this morning. Quest Fanning is here. Yeah, there he is, trying to get my work computer working for an hour and a half. What did I miss? A lot. Apparently the Olympic ceremony is on, but I don't care about the Olympics, so that's not going to happen. Ron says, I'm not sure there'll be trash pickup today. I guess I need to put my can by the road if I can find a spot with all the snow. Randy says, just remember, the reason it's getting so cold in historically hotter areas is because the whole world is gradually warming and making it colder. Jeez, you guys are going crazy over here, which I love because it overcomes the algorithms on these censorious sites. Ron says we're in the 70s when temps dropped and we got ice. The snow looks more like the snow than last year. Yeah, and like I said, you are going to, I mean, the ground is still warm, so this isn't going to last long for you guys. Randy says, I hope the grand solar minimum causes temperatures to drop more rapidly than they grew. It'll be fun to see them trying to explain away the global cooling. Gringo Guapo is here. That's a new name. Welcome, Gringo Guapo. And it does look like we've had quite the argument going off of you guys, which is fine. Absolutely. You guys talk and you raise the algorithm and you raise the ability for me to get advertised on Twitch, so thank you for that. Welcome in. Randy says, keep in mind that Elon Musk has not yet awarded his $10 million reward for the creation of a tool that can accurately measure CO2 in the air. Gringo Guapo says, oh, Moldova does a lot of oil and gas work with the U.S. companies. Yeah, that I can believe. Quest says, taking just Crimea did make sense, sea access, but you're still beholden to the EU via the 2 canals that are controlled by Turkey. Back before Istanbul was Constantinople. Now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Yes, it's Istanbul, not Constantinople. Gringo Guapo says strategically they have to go through Russian control of Crimea. NATO and the UN should be on the defense. That is true. They should be. Randy, well, luckily for Russia, many of the EU is beholden to them for energy. And we lobbied for that. Ron says Russia cannot allow Ukraine to become part of NATO. That would place NATO right next to Russia, leaving Ukraine as a buffer, and stop meddling over there. Jopper9 is here, which it looks like she had a message she wanted to get over to me, so we'll see what happens with that. Randy says, I'm calling it. It's typical rewriting that the U.S. government does. The Russians aren't doing anything but staging defenses on their land as other world powers stack up along it, and somehow they're the aggressors. Yep. Randy says, my only problem is we shut down ours and lobbied for theirs, but Trump was a puppet. Gringo Guapo called me for my pronunciation of the Ukraine. Yeah, it's just habit because I'm a child of the 90s. And that's what I always saw, because Ukraine was in the news a lot when I was a kid. So that's always what I heard was the Ukraine. That's always what I heard from that. We've got a video from Chopper9. Let's actually get that loaded up here. Apparently it goes on to 2030 when it starts. So we'll see what happens with that press briefing. I think that might have been what we were talking about with On the Jets. So thank you, Chopper9, for that. I will look into that and see what we have for that, because that is yesterday's press briefing from the Department of State. Thank you, Chopper9. Let's see, what else do we have here? A reporter says they're full of crap. Yeah, we talked a little bit about this, but if I've got video, we'll probably watch the video on Monday then. I got to get out of here. I got to get to work, but I got to finish up what you guys are doing for. Gringo Guapo says, dude, Whoopi looks like 55. Randy says 55 tons. And then he says, oh, Fat Randy making a fat joke. Irony. Gringo Guapo says, well, like, I work for oil and gas, so I try to look at that point. Maybe I agree with conservatives at that point. Do you think the involvement in the current Ukraine crisis is needed? No. I think it's a distraction. Ron left a comment on this video. Let's see if we can see it. No, I don't see a comment on that one. Gringo Guapo actually brings up a good point here. I have a friend from Ukraine. She has to fly back. Maybe she's overthinking. I don't know. She might be, because, especially if she's here, because our mainstream media and the State Department both are coming back out here and propping this Ukraine thing up to be much, much bigger than it actually is. Ron says most of the trucks were diverted from the main part of Ottawa. They had to park in lots on the other side of the bridges. There are thousands of trucks in various places around there. Yeah, and they could just block off the road if they wanted to. Chilaka asked if Shaq is a high-level Freemason. I believe so. I do believe that is true. I cannot confirm or deny that, but I believe that is true. I believe I have heard that before. Ron says Shaq taking a stand is important. He stands to lose a lot of money by standing for what is right. Ron is boycotting Hershey, having chocolate withdrawals. Maybe I'll stop eating chocolate forever. Wonder what's going on with Hershey's. I guess I haven't looked. I know that you mentioned Hershey's in other live streams, because I do read all the comments. Even Friday's the only day that I actually go through the live chat like this, but I do read everybody's comments throughout the week, off air. So, and I know you mentioned Hershey's. So I don't know what's going on with it, but I know you've mentioned it before. Ron says it feels like Soros wants to say Heil Hitler. Gringo Guapo says, what kind of stream is this? Conservative or like far left? I don't know. I am, to answer your question, I am not really, because I do analysis for politics and I see what everybody's doing wrong, it's really hard for me to fit in a box with anything. I am conservative values at home, but I'm very, very open to people living how they want to live. So if they want to be liberal lefty, I'm okay with that. I might disagree with your policies, especially if you try to bring them into my house or force them into my house. I used to consider myself libertarian. On my Twitter profile, I consider myself federalist because I want your level of government to be the closest to you as possible, so you can go and say, my example is always like the people who make the laws that directly affect you. You can see them in the grocery store and say, Bill, what the fuck, man? Seriously? Why would you do something like that? Like your alderman or your mayor or something. But I see what the right does too, because, and that's where it's hard for me to play team sports off this, because I see all the stupid shit that all of them do, and they're all fucking stupid. Thank you, Randy, for that, by the way. It's right-leaning for sure, but we call it the right when they're acting up too. Gringo says, I hope you don't hate me for being a socialist Democrat adjacent dude. No, absolutely. Come in here, bring your discussion in. Don't get mad, or don't call names because you'll get muted for that. You will never get kicked out for this, for anything, unless you're botting, or I have a direct problem. Like if you dox somebody, that's the only thing you can really get kicked out of here for, giving somebody's personal details. You might get muted every once in a while for name calling, but that's it. That's the most that you're going to get. Hate speech and name calling. Get a mute. And all my mods know that too, by the way. You get a mute. You don't get kicked out. Nobody gets kicked out of here unless I do the kicking. Or you dox somebody and then you're gone. And you don't get an appeal if you dox somebody. We're going to talk about controversial topics here, and I want people to be able to talk about them without fearing that it will hit their everyday life. So if you dox somebody, you don't get an appeal. You're gone. Because that's not cool, dude. But yes, everybody's welcome here. You might not agree with me, but you are welcome here. Ron Helton says, yeah, over 750 bases. The U.S. medals everywhere. Ron Helton says, is Holly Weird preparing us for the end of this empire? We've made a lot of Roman Empire movies. Watched a few on Tubi TV. Ron says, I don't understand why diversity is an issue for the court. Obeying and enforcing the Constitution should be a main consideration. Yes, it should. Excuse me. Yeah, I got the remnants of the pinko pox still coming up through my throat and my nose while we're trying to do this. Which is why I had to step away a little bit earlier and go blow my nose, which I'm going to have to do again as soon as we're done with live. Jeez. You guys are so busy today. It's so awesome. Randy says, like people who trust the silence on Corona, the actual science says it's not a virus. Mask lockdowns haven't worked, but actually made things worse. The vax is not safe and does not work, and testing has failed to a degree of 90+%. This is an all official record from the CDC and WHO. Got a little bit of argument going on over the virus norms. F in the chat. I don't remember what it was, what we said F for, but Randy tested positive on Friday, but doesn't know the genetic sequence that's looking for. Oh, the 5G argument. Which we can't say a lot about that here because, yeah. YouTube, TOS. Harvey is here. KTZed has a meeting starting, so we'll see KTZed on Monday night for KTZed Redemption. Come back and join us for that, 5:30 Central Time. Gringo Guapo says, we're being civil. Yep. Yeah, I can't do the 5G stuff. Sorry, you guys. They will throw me off YouTube for that. Did Ron tell us what was going on with Hershey's? Must have missed that somewhere. Oh, Hershey's fired employees for not taking the jab. Oh, okay. Yeah, fuck Hershey's then. I'll have good chocolate instead. Fuck Hershey's. Well, Quest Vending will probably get some gourmet chocolate from some big name place out in New York City, as I've seen with his walnut tortellini, which I'm going to go to Kenosha this weekend and see if I can find some of that. Let's see. All right. I think that's it. I think we've got everything here. So, by the way, Guapo, Gringo Guapo, I know Randy is in the Discord, so we'll mention that. If you guys do want to finish the conversation after I shut down the stream, which is going to be in just a minute, because I've got to throw my boots on and get out the door here, like now. We got to head out of here. Let's throw the outro music up and let's go because we got to hurry off of this. If you do want to finish the conversation with Randy, he is in the Discord. That has been flying by off of this. You guys look like you've got a lot to go with off of this here. And, you know, Ron and everybody else can come back off of here. So the link is coming up through. There's a Gilded as well, but that one's not really active because not a lot of people use Gilded yet. Outro music. I said outro music. And let's head out of here for the day. So, thanks everybody who came by and chatted with us in the live chat. I'm going to head out of here. I've got to get myself to work here, so we're going to have a little bit of an abbreviated ending here, but we're going to head out of here for the day. We will see you back here on Monday for more Contemporary. No weekend streams this weekend, because I've got to run down to Kenosha and go back and help somebody out and see my godmother for a little bit, and possibly go and see if I can find some of this walnut tortellini in a dedicated Italian market that they have down in Kenosha that I love to go to. So, we'll be back here on Monday, bright and early for more Contemporary. Monday night, 5:30 Central Time for the KTZed Redemption show. News and discussion of the week. We've got a big show planned for that, so come back out here. Episode 5 of KTZed Redemption. Come back and join us for that. That is myself and KTZed. Otherwise, we will see you for more Contemporary as always. And until then, I'm Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Take care.